Hi everyone, my name is Emily. I'm the owner of Lily Longnose sewing patterns, which are available on Etsy. Today we're going to do a sewing tutorial for our most popular pattern, which is our turtleneck t-shirt. This is one that I made earlier. It's been worn by Lily probably 100 times, so it's a little bit stretched, but I just wanted to show you what the finished product is supposed to look like. So it's got a neck up here, 2 leg holes, and then an open body. Now this pattern does include an adjustment to cut the belly shorter for male dogs who might wee on their outfits. All right, so before you get started, you do need to measure your dog just so you know what size you have. This is Lily. She loves chicken hearts. And she's been measured 1,000 times. I know what her measurement is, but I'm just going to show you how to correctly measure your dog for our outfits. So here, bub. So first of all, you're just going to take your measuring tape and you're going to go across the dog's back from the base of the neck where their collar would sit, about here, up to the base of their tail. Okay, so Lily is a 65 across her back, and her chest measurement, stay there, babe, is 74. So I'll show you how to read our size chart so we know what size to get, and that's Lucifer, the cat. All right, so this is our Lily Longnose Etsy store where you can buy our patterns. I always suggest using the categories down the left-hand side. So I'm going to click on Greyhound to find the right size that I'm looking for. And Lily, let's try this one first. So the small, medium, large Greyhound turtleneck, that's what we're trying to make. If you just scroll through the pictures, you will find the size chart. So Lily was a 63 across her back, so probably smaller than a small, but she was a 73 across her chest. And the instructions here say, if your dog doesn't match these proportions, purchase the pattern to fit your dog's chest measurements, and then read the frequently asked questions to alter the length to fit your dog. So that part is really important because the chest part is where the pattern needs to fit the best, and it's easier to alter the length of the outfit than it is to alter the chest. So we're going to work on a small for Lily for this project. All right, so once you've purchased your pattern, you can open up the main PDF. So this one here is a small, medium, large Greyhound classic shirt. Shirt, t-shirt, turtleneck, all the same thing. So this is what your file will look like once you open it in your PDF viewer. You can see that it's got lines down the pages. That's where the edge of your paper is going to be. There's circles to help you match it up. And the 3 different colours are different sizes. So you can see, for example, back on this first page, it's colour coded. So the bright blue is the small, which is the one that we'll be cutting out for Lily. So when you go to print it, just make sure that you select the right printer settings to make it the right size. So make sure you go to scale and 100%. As long as it's at 100%, you should be printing it at the correct scale. All right, so once you have printed out the first page of your pattern, what you're going to do is you're going to check the 2 centimetre test square. Now, this is the pattern that I've used many, many times, so I've actually already pieced it together, but I will talk you through that in a moment. But first of all, your 2 centimetre test square up here, once you've printed just that page, you're going to want to just double check that it is actually 2 centimetres, because that's going to tell you that the scale of your pattern is correct and you've got the right size. It's going to fit your dog. So once you've done that, you can print out the rest of the pages, and then you're going to piece it together. So this is an old pattern, so it doesn't have all the features of the current ones, but we do currently have page numbers, so it makes it easier to put it together. But once you've lined up all of the page numbers, you're just going to want to make sure that all of the lines sit nicely. And these circles are here to help you make sure that you're not putting one page too far over the other, and that it matches up perfectly. So just make sure that when you piece your pattern together, that all of the circles match up nice and neatly. And then once you've done that, you can go around and cut out the actual size that you are looking for. Okay, so now that you've got your pattern pieces sorted, next what you want to do is make sure that you've got the right fabric. Now this pattern in particular is designed for really stretchy fabric, and it is meant to fit the dog quite snug, quite close to their body. It's not meant to be a loose kind of outfit. So please make sure that when you are looking for your fabric choices that you are looking for something stretchy. If you don't get something stretchy, it's probably not going to fit right. So just be aware of that. So this fabric that I've picked, purple, looks really good on Lily. I don't know why, it's just amazing. So this is a nice and stretchy like t-shirt material. It has a two-way stretch, I'd say. That's not very stretchy along that way, but it's got a really nice stretch this way. So that's going to be a really beautiful material to use. Before you lay your pattern pieces out to get ready to start cutting, you just need to identify which side is the right side or the wrong side of the fabric. Now for experienced sewers, you kind of know what you're doing, but for more new people, it's going to depend on each of your fabric. Generally, the print and the colour looks a lot nicer on one side, or for example, if you're using like a ribbing like this kind of fabric, the actual ribs will look more obvious on one side than the other. So what you're going to do, this pattern is designed to be cut on a fold. So what that means is that you fold the fabric in half so that you get a mirror image when you cut out the pattern. So I'll just explain that when I go ahead and do it. So I've just folded my fabric in half, give it a little wiggle so it all flattens out, and then I'm going to lay it on my table. My kitchen bench is my cutting table. All right, and when I've folded it, what I've done is I've made sure the nice outside of the fabric is on the inside of the fold. And the reason for that is because you're going to go ahead and you're going to mark, you're going to draw on your fabric to outline where you need to cut. And so that means that there won't be any kind of pen marks or permanent marker kind of bleeding through. Professionals would use chalk, but I hate chalk, so I won't be using that. So your fabric is folded in half. At the top here, closest to me, is where the fold is. So I'm going to take my main pattern piece, which is my big body piece, and I'm going to just read it. See how it says fold right here? That means this whole top part, which is the dog's spine, is going to be cut in the fold. And I'll show you the example. See the first one that I showed you, how there's no seam down the back of the dog. So down the back spine here, it's all just one continuous piece of fabric. There's no spine to it. It just makes a nicer finish, really. But if you are using directional fabric, so if there's a print on it and you don't want it to be upside down on one side of the dog and right side up on the other side, you can, of course, just cut two mirror images. But you'll just need to add on a little bit of leeway for a seam allowance. So keep that in mind. Probably don't do that for your first one if this is the first time you've ever sewn anything. Just follow it by the book until you know what you're doing.
All right, so I've marked out my pieces, so I'm just going to explain why I've done each one the way I have. So this top one, this main body piece, as I said, needs to be on the fold, so make sure that's the fold of your fabric. The best stretch of this fabric runs up and down, so this ensures that the best stretch is along the dog's chest. You've got your sleeve pieces, which have the stretch mark, so again, you need to run it this way. And your leg cuffs are on the fold, and again, the stretch is running that way. Now, I did make a little mistake tracing out the collar piece. That is not going the right direction for the stretch, so I'm going to have to redo that one. Luckily, I've got a bit of spare fabric up here, so that should be fine.
All right, so the first step towards sewing it is to sew along this bottom seam that would run under the dog's belly. And the other one is this one at the front that would run down from their chest. Okay, so you're just there's a seam allowance written on the pattern and the instructions, so just check that and then sew along those two lines. All right, so now that you've got those seams sewn, what you're going to do is you're actually going to open up the body piece. So you're going to open it up like that so that the seams run down the middle, okay? What you need to do is now find the raw edges and you're going to secure that. So I always start by pinning this at the seams so I know that it's going to match up nice and neatly. So I'm going to pin that there. And then I'm going to secure along the other lines as well. Now it looks like my pattern's not matching up perfectly, so that's probably, I think that's an error in my pattern that I'll need to go ahead and fix. So don't worry about that too much. It's not going to affect the finished product. So what you've got now should look a little bit like this. So you've got the seam that you just sewed along here. That's the chest seam. And this is the belly seam. And this is what we've just pinned along here. We've put those two pieces together and it's going to create your armholes. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and sew along that seam, and then our body piece is constructed. Okay, so now that you've constructed the body piece, you've done that T-zone seam, you can lay it back on its fold and just check that you've done it correctly. So you should have two armholes, a hole for the neck, the main body piece, and the seams running along. What you're going to do next is you're going to get out your other pieces. So I'm going to start with my sleeves. I'm going to pop the neck piece to the side. So what you've got here is your sleeve pieces. This is straight from the cutting table, so they're still folded. I'm going to take one sleeve piece and I'm going to fold it on itself and line up these straight edges. I'm going to pin them so they stay in place, and I'm going to sew along those straight edges. Okay, so that's the first one. I'm going to do the same for the other one, and then this cuff is the cuff piece that's actually going to fit in here. You're going to do the same thing, so you're just going to pin it along its little edges here, because you're going to sew along here. I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then I'll show you what it looks like. Okay, so now that your seams have been sewn on all four of those pieces, what you're going to do is you're now going to attach the cuffs. So we're going to start with one sleeve, and what you're going to do, this little cuff piece, you're actually going to fold it so that the seam is hidden on the inside. Okay, so you're going to fold it in on itself. You're just going to line up these little seams so they match nicely, and then line it up all the way around so the raw edges sit next to each other. And what you should have is a beautiful little cuff piece there. Now what you're going to do is you're going to slip that inside your sleeve. Okay, and what you want to do is make sure that this is the tail for my overlocker. This side seam here matches up with this side seam here. I'm just going to slip it right in here. Matches up nicely, and you're going to pop a pin there. Okay, now you will notice that the cuff is not the exact same size as your sleeve. So the cuff finishes here and the sleeve keeps going here. That is deliberate. That is because your cuff piece should bring in the garment a bit closer and more snug around the arms. If you don't like that, obviously you can go back to the pattern. You can add a little bit more to it so that it's a bit wider, but I like that more fitted final finish. So what you should do next is, just because it's a stretched fabric, just pop your thumbs in there and just stretch it a little bit so that you get the perfect halfway mark to place your next pin. Pop your pin in the other side. So now you've got a pin on each side of your cuffs. Okay, and you can pop a couple more pins in there if you feel that you need that to sew around those edges. I don't usually do that because I don't love pins. But then you're just going to pop it into your machine and you're going to go all the way around the edges. Do the same for your other sleeve as well. Okay, so what you should have now is your two sleeve pieces with a seam and a cuff on the inside. And what we're going to do now is we're going to attach the sleeves to the body piece. So you're going to just have that ready. And what I would suggest is just referring back to the pattern, because the sleeve is a little bit odd shaped, and that is to fit the shoulder of the dog. So this steeper curve here is for the back part of the sleeve, which is going to attach on this side, and this is the front part towards the chest. So that's going to be that side here. So what you're going to want to do is just figure out which is which. So I'm just going to fold this here so I can see. So the steeper curve is the back, which means this is the back here. Now what I'm going to need to do is turn these the right side out so that I can pin them into the body. So I'm just going to do that first. Turn that right side out. That's a good looking little sleeve, isn't it? Turn this one right side out. Beautiful. And then I'm just going to figure out which end is which. Okay, so this is for the back of the dog, which means that's the other side of the sleeve. This one should then be the back. Perfect. Okay, so now I know that this part here, which is the steeper curve, is going to match here. We're just going to pop this sleeve into our body piece and pin this all the way around so it's not going to move. So this is where I've also put the sleeve into the body like that, just so that it's a bit easier to maneuver. All right, so what we're going to do now is we're just going to go all the way around the edges. So what I'll do is I'll pin the rest of it, and then I will just quickly show you how it's supposed to look before you sew it. So here's my sleeve. So the sleeve's going inside the body here, and this is all of my pins around the edges. Sorry, it's a little bit hard to see. And so now I'm going to just sew around that edge and then overlock. I'm going to do the same with the other side. All right, so now that you've done your sleeves, you're just going to pop that to the side, and you're going to pull out your collar piece. You're just going to make sure the right side of the fabric is on the inside of the fold. You're just going to fold it in half. So you've got these two short seams down here, and you're going to sew along this side. This is going to be really quick and easy to do this collar. So you're just going to sew along here, and then we're going to attach it to our body piece. What you have now is a finished collar piece. So we're actually going to turn this right side out and see how it's looking now. To the arms. Beautiful. All right, so there we go. You've got a collar. You've got two legs. And you've got your main body piece. Now, this is where you can decide if you would either like to hem the body piece, so just turning it in on itself all the way around, just so you get a clean little finish, or you can add a much smaller version of a cuff all the way around the edges. I prefer the look of the cuff, so that is what I'm going to do. All right, so if you want to add a cuff to the main body piece, you're just going to go out and cut a long strip of fabric. I find it just easier to measure against the piece that you have, because if you've gone and adjusted it to make it shorter here for a male dog, or if you're making it for a completely different shaped dog, you might have made the length shorter. So I just find it easier to just measure what size you need and then cut it yourself. I've done, that's probably about a 5 centimetre width along here. And yeah, you just need to make sure that your strip of fabric is approximately the same length as your body piece. So you can see that there. It is stretch fabric, so don't stress too much. And what you're going to do, you're really just making a big cut. The dog's sneezing, I'm sorry. So you're just going to fold it in half. And this raw edge here, you're just going to sew along there first. So we'll do that, and then I'll show you the next step. All right, so now you should just have one big loop. And what you're going to do is you're just going to fold it down and you're going to fold it like that. So I'll just show you again. So that is the seam, and you're going to fold it in on itself like you have with all the other cuffs that you've made. So it's like that. Okay, and then you're going to take this part here and you're going to attach it to the inside of this seam. So right sides together. You're going to pop this right there to match up nicely. Pin that there. Then what you're going to do is you're going to pin all the way around. I find it easier to just find the middle point first and then attach that to the top and then pin the way around. You can do that and I'll show you. All right, so what you've got now is you've got your cuff pinned all the way around the main body piece. You should have the seams lining up underneath the belly so you don't end up seeing it. And it should be relatively even all the way across. What you're going to do now is you're just going to sew nice and close to the edge all the way around, and it'll give you a really nice cuff on your finish.